Okay, the CZ75D PCR versus the Glock 19, the most popular gun in America. Which one do I prefer for concealed carry and why? This is not a review about which gun is better. Um, I've I've just carried the CZ here for a few years daily, strong side IWB, and then changed over to appendix IWB. And now I purchased and got the Glock and started carrying that a few months ago. And I'm just going to tell you how I would, compare the two for carry specifically. Both of these guns have been unloaded. They are cleared. You're just going to have to trust me. And let's kick it off so we can make this as fast as possible. Shootability, I would give the nod to the CZ. Anytime I've taken new shooters to the range and put both of these in their hands, they tend to shoot the CZ a little bit better. I had the same experience as well when I first started shooting. I think it's because the CZ grip angle is just more familiar for a lot of people. It's more ergonomic than the Glock. And it just they just point very naturally. Now, by the way, I'll just reverse real quick. This is not a stock CZ, but I'm going to talk about it as if it is. You can tell the grip is different, the hammer is different. There's a bunch of changes on the inside to really hot rod this gun, but I'm going to talk about it as if it was bone stock. And I think the CZ is just easier to shoot if you're not super familiar with shooting than the Glock is, right? Especially if you're new and you don't know how to really use your support hand to hold the gun steady and be consistent. The CZ just tends to be a little easier. Whereas the Glock, interestingly enough, I now shoot the Glock better the more I've dry fired and the more I've just really focused on skill. I actually shoot the Glock the better of the two, whereas I didn't used to. So, but I would say the CZ is more naturally just shootable and pointable. Aftermarket support, the nod definitely goes to the Glock. Any pistol part that exists, they probably make it for a Glock. All the top holster makers, JM Custom Kydex, Darkstar Gear, Keeper's Concealment, everyone makes Glock stuff, and a lot of times they make quick ship options, so you don't have to wait, 4 months to get your, not 4 months, like a month for some to get your custom holster. Whereas I know Darkstar is actually a little different in that regard. You can get, they'll do one in like a week for you, even custom. They're pretty fast, but anyone is going to make stuff for the Glock, whereas in the CZ, you're going to have to find who actually has Kydex molds for it that is a good holster maker, and then do your, pay for your build, and it's going to take you a little while to get it. So definitely, in Glocks, you can buy frames, you can buy slides just on their own. Like, you're not going to have that with the CZ. So definitely aftermarket support is big for the Glocks. The mags are cheaper too, so it's a huge plus. Safety features. I'm going to give the nod to the CZ here, and I'm going to tell you why. So the CZ is a double action, single action handgun that with a decocker. That means, so I just racked it. I'm in single action. I can now decock it, put it into double action, and my first pull is going to be pretty heavy, right? And then my second pull is going to be, or all the pulls after that is going to be a very light, crisp single action pull. That's like pretty nice. To have that first shot be kind of heavy. But the cool thing about a hammer gun, particularly if you carry appendix, you can thumb it like this when you holster, right? Because if you're carrying appendix, you're going to shoot your dick off. Like, that's not true. There's a lot of crap around that it just isn't the case. Granted, it's not for everybody. If you want to look more into that, look up a video by John Johnston called "The Anatomy of an AIWB Discharge" from his channel for Ballistic Radio. Really good stuff there. Look that up. Let's just keep that debate out of this, though. But you can thumb a hammer, right? And if I'm thumbing it, I can't pull the trigger. And in the event that the trigger does move, I'm going to kind of feel the hammer want to move, So if I'm holstering and there's an obstruction and I'm doing this with my thumb, I'm going to really help prevent shooting myself in the, the gun sits between the femoral artery and your dick, usually when you carry appendix, and both of those you don't want to shoot. Either way, it'd be bad. So that helps a lot. Now, the Glock doesn't have anything like that, where it gets a lot of heat. There's no manual safety. I don't use those anyway, but it's basically just a striker gun, right? So, however, you can make a modification to your Glock that actually gives it a similar feature. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to pull this trigger. Watch my base plate, or my back plate right here. You're going to see it kind of raise up a little bit. That's called the Gadget. Okay, it's a striker control device by Tau Development Group. They're about $80. It's a pretty high quality product. It doesn't mess with your trigger in any way, but what it does is see how it kind of hangs loose there and kind of can be moved around? It raises up when the trigger is pulled. And so if you want to holster in the appendix position, put your thumb on it, you can actually feel if there's any obstruction there, right? Basically mimicking the same kind of, holstering safety feature that you'd have on a hammer-fired gun, which is really cool. And then, the keyboard commandos are going to say, your trigger finger is the safety. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't substitute good trigger discipline, but to pay $80 and add an extra layer of safety protecting both either your dick and your femoral artery, those are both worth more than $80 to me. So kind of dumb not to, right? And it does not interfere with the gun's reliability in any way. So with that, they become equally safe for appendix carry, in my opinion. Not that the Glock was inherently unsafe before. It's just, you get that extra feature that a hammer gives you, right? But stock on their own, the CZ kind of takes the nod there because that decocker and the hammer is pretty sweet for appendix. So climate considerations. I carry somewhere humid, sweat all over my guns. The Glock is better for obvious reasons. Metal gun, aluminum alloy frame. Polymer gun, doesn't rust. Weight. The Glock weighs 21 ounces unloaded. The CZ weighs 28 ounces unloaded. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a big difference when you have a gun in your pants all day. I feel noticeably lighter with the Glock than I did with the CZ. And then last but not least, probably one of the most important for a lot of people. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna back up 1 second before I say this. Reliability. These guns have been equally reliable for me. This CZ has thousands of rounds through it, including matches with not a lot of cleaning. The Glock is newer to me. Had it for a few months, maybe been 1,000 rounds through it. Just only shot 2 matches with it so far. They've been equally reliable. The CZ eats anything I give it, really, even crappy ammo. I know they say the Glock is the most reliable in the world, but in my experience, they've been the same. So equal there. But now concealability. The Glock is more concealable for me. I carry in a t-shirt. I don't wear big tactical dad shirts, the button-ups with all the stripes and the patterns on them and stuff. I'm carrying a gun shirt. I don't wear those. I wear light clothes because it's hot as hell where I live and very humid. And this grip angle, kind of being tucked in like this and being shorter than the CZ, you can actually see that the grip angle is a little bit shorter. Kind of hard to tell on camera here. But it's a little bit shorter, and that does make a difference. Especially when it comes to rollout. Sometimes the gun, when you're carrying the appendix, wants to roll out a little bit. The Glock definitely stays in tucked better than the CZ, and it also doesn't have this beaver tail jamming you in the gut. So yeah, I'd say, and probably the last thing that's kind of interesting is the CZ looks thinner than the Glock, right? It's definitely a more svelte gun. It's got nice cuts. It just looks a little slimmer. However, it's actually not slimmer in a holster. And what I mean by that is if you look at the Glock, it's basically just a straight line with very flat controls, whereas the CZ has a pretty large slide lock, decocker. The other side of the slide lock comes out here. There needs to be clearance for those in a Kydex holster, and that actually adds a good amount of bulk when you're carrying in Kydex. The Glock is just a straight line, and so the holsters actually wind up being a little slimmer. So even the CZ is kind of a slimmer gun. It's not slimmer in a holster, and you wouldn't know that unless you used both a lot. So I hope this was really helpful. If you have any questions in the comments, just ask, and I'll answer as best I can. See you guys.